So we start off with our usual prayer for teacher-student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunuktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Mastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So this is the Vedanta Series question and answer. If there are no questions, there are no answers. So I'll wait patiently for you to formulate a question and ask it.
Swamiji, I can ask the question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So Swamiji, if the world is just a manifestation of our thoughts, then where is the failure coming from? So is it only because of our fear that the failure happens? Or is it that we are consciously thinking that we are going to fail and therefore we fail?
See, it is not quite accurate to say that the world is a manifestation of our thought, because the assumption is that we have our own individual thought. It looks like that, there's no doubt. But we have to understand that there is only one mind. You have to get used to that idea. You can imagine, I've used the example previously, of a broadcasting station that manifests its broadcast everywhere because there's an all-permitting field. We can call this technically Agasha, a permitting area where waves are permitted to flow freely in different combinations with different wavelengths and frequencies. What we call our individual mind is just a kind of substation, a kind of transistor, localized transistor that catches the flow. Now that gets individually directed, there's no doubt. The direction that we give will always be infallible, since the thinker behind all thoughts is infallible. And the world in front is just a combination, a rehash, a fragmentation of the thought that gets carried out. We have to bear in mind the whole cosmology of everything. For this, we have to go to the Sankhya's. The Sankhya's are basically an atheistic position that make a certain error. The error is the same error that materialists use today, thinking that nature, Prakriti or Pradhana, is the only thing that exists and is responsible for everything else. But included in that will be an area called a cosmic mind. It is a kind of subsidiary to nature itself in its unmanifest form. So somebody has opened here the Gospel of Ramakrishna in relation to a question that was asked here. No doubt I'll get them to highlight the passage. So whatever passes through the field of mind on a localized level will have its effect. It will contribute toward the relationship between the world and ourselves if we split it up in this way. And so every thought will have its impact. For good or bad, there's no judgmental aspect to it. The only thing is that this world is composed of two aspects. Inherently, everything is knitted together in harmony. That is why man is essentially moral. When man goes against that moral principle, then this is a dharma, but dharma will always win. That is, the harmony against chaos will always win. This is against the scientific principles that everything is moving toward entropy, means chaos, scrambledness. The fundamental principle of the Vedanta, even from the Sankhya point of view, is that everything brings harmony. It ends in harmony. It is a self-adjusting mechanism that ends in harmony. And that means then that there's a cosmic balancing power, regardless of what we do. And that's the true creative power. At our local level, we'll create the world around us because the whole of this law of harmony is built on a causal relationship, what you can call as sowing and reaping. So where does fear come in? Fear comes in because of the association with the pristine entity which is within us that gets mixed up, seemingly mixed up, with the body-mind unit that says, I'm an individual. Something like a wave in an ocean that declares its independence. I'm independent for every other wave. I don't want to integrate. I don't want to behave nicely. I want to assert my independence. When you do that, naturally, every other wave becomes a threat. Be that wave a person, be it an event or a circumstance. So a fearfulness arises. It arises essentially from the fundamental mother of all fears, the fear of having no meaning, the fear of your own demise. And so we have to assert a raw understanding that we exist because we don't wish to not exist. That's called fear of death. From there, everything else comes. It comes essentially from an egoistic position. Egoistic position, we know, has various varieties within it. It's not a standard position. And there are a number of different contributing factors to it. Building up layer upon layer of misunderstanding, mistakenness. So how to combat fear? The opposite fear is faith. Fear is faith in heredity. Faith that your XY chromosomes on all sides, that is the reliable authority for your status quo or your assumed status quo. And that's our difficulty. How to combat that? Well, come to the Enneagram course. And more than that, but make sure that you practice whatever you learn there. Because the principal obstacle in our way is this body-mind self-connection. When we were discussing a few days ago, somebody was confused. What is the difference between somebody who attains their own freedom in this life or hereafter, and somebody who's specifically born, what we call incarnation, avatar, somebody who descends, somebody who manifests directly from cosmic mind? Surely we all come from the cosmic mind. Surely there's only one unity of existence. Surely inherently we're all divine. What's the difference? So I brought out Swami Vivekananda's, and I think he got it from elsewhere also, his example of what is God? God in the sense of a Lord, the one that creates regularity, rhythm, and harmony, in other words, promotes dharma in this universe. We call this Ishvara, literally meaning Lord. So that is like a circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is everywhere. Then in contradistinction to that, what is a soul called jiva? Jiva implying something that is alive, something that is engaged in the living world of multiple relationships. That entity is like a circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is in one particular spot. Now, what is an avatara? Avatara is also a circle whose circumference is nowhere, whose center is in one spot, but who does not labor under the influence of ignorance about it, is always conscious that they are ever free, not restricted in any way, playing the part of a restricted entity, playing the part of man, so that the Christian theology, having been worked out over a couple of 100 years, becomes extremely accurate. We think probably inspired, no doubt, when people sat and reflected and meditated upon the issue. So that it is quite accurate to say that an incarnation is fully man and fully God, or fully that perfect free, ever free entity. Fully capable of engaging in the drama of manhood, and fully capable of withdrawing to a position of nirvikalpa samadhi, and unusually be able to sustain that beyond the borders of the normal human capacity to sustain it, namely, literally 21 days, 3 weeks. Beyond that, they're like the salt doll that disappears in the ocean and becomes one with it, not able to come back and report anything. So we are, generally speaking, therefore, laboring under this illusion, and it is essentially a fearful position with a strategy scrambling against it. It's akin to being in water. You know, the two things you can do in water: drowning and swimming. So if you learn to swim, then you won't drown. If you drown, then you don't know how to swim. So keeping your head above water in both cases is essential for breathing purposes. So if life is simply a struggle to keep your head above water, then it becomes very conducive to despondency. That's a very depressing kind of situation. But then the realization in the example, in the analogy, I am the ocean itself. I'm not a struggling individual trying to do my best. The world is not my enemy. The world is a friend. When I learn swimming, I learn floating. And when I learn floating, I understand water is my friend. The human body is essentially buoyant. It supports me. The whole ocean is there to support me, not just me, but a huge multi-ton carrier of a ship carrying such multiple cargo with huge tons of materials on board, and the whole ocean is able to support it. A passenger ship these days, an ocean liner that has the equivalent of a several-story building, 11, 12, 13, 14-story buildings with different levels for, say, apartments being carried and floated on the water. There's now a proposition that whole cities actually can be maintained and floated on the water as a good solution to land occupancy in terms of residential areas and cities. So we are, again, as the Bhagavad Gita claims, we ourselves have the capacity to steer our attention in any chosen way. But the most immediate effect that any thought has is on ourselves. So to be virtuous or to be cruel or to be morally selfish is really on ourselves. It's an attack on ourselves. So sensible thinking realizes this and ceases to do it. Why would I knowingly punch myself in the face? Have a boxing match with myself. Left hand and right hand combating. The right leg gets jealous of my left one, so decides to kick it every day. You see, the overall bruising would be on the left leg, but it's still part of me. So to understand things in a more holistic way is necessary for us as an initial step. And then an ultimate step is the spontaneous realization of oneness, actual oneness, with no separation whatsoever. So in several senses, this world is one. There's only one energy, only one mind, a kind of solipsism, if you will. Only one thing is there. There's not multiple things there. The world in front that looks so separate, individual and fragmented, is nothing more than split up God in our view. Of course, you can't split that entity up at all, but that's how it looks. And the closer we get to the reality, the less fragmented it becomes. So that, in short, is the answer to your question.
Thank you, Swamiji.
But it might not be a satisfactory answer. That's the problem. You see, we all go back. It's like a rubber band. You see, we know how to stretch it, but we don't necessarily know how to keep it stretched. It bounces back and hurts us. So that is why regularity of spiritual practice is necessary. That is why bringing the mind again and again back to the essential theme, bringing it back to blissful base. Our base is blissful. Learn to bring it back. Learn to do it with a sporting attitude also. The world is not a threat to us. So that we should get in the habit of saying, what a glory, not what a pity. What a pity is a negative stance. Negative thoughts will be thoughts which will be full of anxiety and doubt and fear and temptation.